The warning signs no one talks about. Is your loved one trying to tell you something? Have you ever looked at a loved one, maybe a parent, a grandparent, or even your lifelong partner, and felt like something was different? Not just the natural slowing down that comes with age, but subtle changes that don't seem right. Maybe they have lost weight without trying, started sleeping more, or seem distant in ways you can't quite explain. Here's the hard truth. Most people assume that when the elderly pass away, it happens suddenly. But in reality, the body often sends quiet warnings, months, sometimes even a full year, before life reaches its final stage. The problem? These signs are easy to miss. They start off small, so small that most families brush them off as just getting older. It's only later, when looking back, that people realize the clues were there all along. But by then, it's too late. Too late to prepare, too late to say what needs to be said, too late to make those last moments truly count. This video isn't about fear, it's about understanding. Because recognizing these early signs isn't just about knowing what's coming, it's about making the most of the time you still have. It's about ensuring your loved one's final stage of life is filled with comfort, dignity, and peace. In the next few minutes, we're going to go over 5 key signs that often appear up to a year before an elderly person passes away. Some of them may be things you've noticed, but dismissed. Others might surprise you. But understanding them now gives you the chance to provide better care, have those important conversations, and make sure your loved one never feels alone in their final chapter. Stay with us until the end, because what you learn today could change how you approach the most precious moments you have left with someone you love. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Unexplained weight loss. When weight loss isn't just aging, the silent alarm no one wants to hear. Most people think of weight loss as a good thing, something to be celebrated. But when it happens to an elderly loved one, it's often a red flag that too many families ignore until it's too late. Here's the truth. Unexplained weight loss isn't just part of getting older. It's the body signaling that something much deeper is happening. The ability to process food efficiently begins to fail. Muscles waste away, making even simple movements, like getting out of a chair or walking to the kitchen, a struggle. And when strength declines, the risks multiply. Falls become more frequent, infections hit harder, and the immune system weakens. But here's the part no one talks about. Appetite doesn't fade by accident. It's a sign that the body itself is shutting down. Many seniors stop feeling hungry, not because they don't enjoy food anymore, but because their brain stops sending hunger signals altogether. Their taste buds dull, favorite meals no longer excite them, and they gradually begin to eat less and less. Families often push back, urging their loved ones to eat more, serving up plates of once-loved dishes, or even introducing high-calorie supplements. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Sometimes forcing food isn't the answer. Why? Because at a certain point, weight loss isn't about diet. It's about the body preparing for its final transition. No one wants to hear that. Many will fight this idea, arguing that with the right nutrition, their loved one can regain strength. And sometimes, for a short while, they do. But if the weight keeps dropping despite your best efforts, it's time to stop focusing on calories and start focusing on comfort. This is where many families face a tough question. Should we fight to extend life at all costs? Or should we focus on making every remaining moment meaningful? It's a conversation filled with emotion, but it's one that can't be avoided. Because when the body is sending a message, ignoring it won't stop what's coming. Understanding it, however, gives you a chance to prepare. With clarity, with compassion, and most importantly, with love. So if your loved one is losing weight, looking weaker, or struggling with daily activities, don't dismiss it. This isn't just about numbers on a scale, it's about listening to what their body is trying to tell you. Number 2. Fatigue and weakness. When fatigue becomes a warning sign. The truth behind sudden weakness. Fatigue is normal, right? We all feel tired from time to time, but what happens when exhaustion doesn't go away, no matter how much someone rests? When even the simplest tasks, getting out of bed, brushing their hair, or walking a few steps, feel like running a marathon. For many elderly individuals in their final year of life, this type of fatigue isn't just tiredness. It's a signal that the body is beginning to shut down. Families often assume their loved one just needs more sleep, better nutrition, or a little encouragement to be more active. But here's the truth. This deep, persistent fatigue is the body's way of conserving its remaining energy for the essentials. Think of the body like a power grid. When everything is running smoothly, energy flows everywhere. Organs function, muscles move, and the brain stays sharp. But when energy becomes scarce, the body has to prioritize survival over everything else. The heart doesn't pump as strongly, circulation slows, and muscles don't get the oxygen they need. That's why climbing stairs feels impossible, why lifting a spoon takes effort, and why staying awake for a conversation becomes exhausting. This is also why naps get longer. At first, you might notice your loved ones sleeping a little more than usual. Then, those naps stretch into most of the day. Some seniors will suddenly have bursts of energy, only to crash minutes later. This isn't just aging, it's a sign that their metabolism is slowing, shifting resources away from movement and into basic survival mode, the emotional toll of fatigue, when the body fails before the mind. One of the most painful parts of this process isn't just the physical weakness, it's what it does emotionally. Many seniors who once prided themselves on their independence start feeling ashamed that they can't do what they used to. Someone who used to cook every meal now struggles to stand at the stove. A grandparent who once played with their grandkids may now prefer to sit and watch, too tired to engage. This can lead to something even more heartbreaking: withdrawal. Not because they don't love their family, not because they don't want to engage, but because they physically can't. Loud conversations become overwhelming, outings feel impossible, and even responding to a simple question can be too much effort. Over time, many seniors stop trying altogether, not because they've given up, but because their body has. For families, this can be deeply frustrating. It's hard to watch someone fade, to see them go from active and engaged to quiet and distant. Many people push their loved ones, encouraging them to get up and move or fight through the tiredness. But here's the harsh reality. This isn't something they can push through. Should you push or let them rest? The hardest question families face. This is where the debate begins. Should you encourage them to stay active, or should you let them rest? Many people believe that keeping a loved one engaged, making them walk, talk, and participate, is the key to keeping them alive longer. But forcing activity can sometimes cause more harm than good. Yes, movement is important, but when the body is naturally slowing down, rest isn't just necessary, it's vital. The key is balance. Instead of pushing, focus on creating meaningful moments within their energy limits. Instead of urging them to walk around the house, sit with them, hold their hand, tell them a story. Instead of making them go out, bring the world to them. What to watch for and how to respond with love. If you notice that your loved one is sleeping much more than usual, struggles to complete even small tasks, has moments of alertness but quickly becomes exhausted, withdraws from conversations or social interactions, then this isn't just normal aging. This is their body speaking to you, and the best thing you can do isn't to push, it's to listen. Fatigue at this level isn't something that can be reversed, but what can be changed is how we respond to it. Instead of frustration, we can show patience. Instead of expectations, we can offer understanding. And instead of focusing on what they can't do, we can cherish what they still can do. Do you believe in pushing loved ones to stay active, or should we focus on comfort in their final stage? Let's talk in the comments. Number 3. Cognitive decline and emotional withdrawal. When a loved one retreats, the science behind cognitive decline and emotional withdrawal, there's a heartbreaking moment in every family's journey when you look at a loved one and realize they aren't fully there anymore. They sit in silence, staring into the distance, no longer engaging in conversations they once enjoyed. They stop asking about family members, the spark in their eyes dims. It's one of the most painful realities of aging, and for many it feels like losing them before they're actually gone. But what's really happening inside their mind? Why does someone who once loved socializing suddenly withdraw? And more importantly, how can we support them during this transition? The brain's last effort. Why confusion comes and goes. One of the most frustrating parts of late-stage cognitive decline is its unpredictability. One day your loved one seems clear and present, remembering old stories and holding meaningful conversations. The next, they're confused, lost, or unable to recognize familiar faces. This isn't just random, it's due to fluctuations in oxygen and blood flow to the brain. What science says, the brain uses 20% of the body's oxygen supply, but as circulation weakens, the brain receives less oxygen-rich blood. This leads to short-term confusion, memory loss, and moments of mental fogginess. Some individuals experience transient lucidity, brief moments where they seem completely normal before slipping back into confusion. A 2019 study in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia found that up to 40% of elderly individuals nearing the end of life experience sudden episodes of clarity, moments where they recall detailed memories and recognize loved ones. While these moments are precious, they can give families false hope, making the decline even harder to accept. Why emotional withdrawal happens? It's not a choice. At first, families assume their loved one is withdrawing because they're sad or depressed, but in many cases, it's not an emotional reaction. It's a neurological shift. Loud noises become overwhelming. The brain struggles to process complex sensory input, making conversations, TV, and even background chatter exhausting. Socializing requires too much energy. As cognitive function slows, forming thoughts, remembering details, and staying engaged in conversations becomes physically draining. The brain stops prioritizing emotional responses. Regions of the brain responsible for processing emotions, like the amygdala, receive less stimulation, causing individuals to become emotionally detached. The data. A 2020 study in neurology found that individuals in cognitive decline often lose their ability to recognize emotional cues. This means they might not respond to jokes, show excitement, or react to bad news in ways they once did. Real story, Carol noticed her mother Linda withdrawing from family events. At first, she thought she was just tired. But then, even when sitting with family, Linda would stare blankly at the table, barely responding to conversation. One day, Carol showed her an old photo album, hoping it would spark a reaction. Instead, Linda just smiled weakly and set it aside. It's not that she didn't care. Carol realized it's that her brain was no longer letting her process emotions the way she used to. This is why patience is key. Your loved one isn't ignoring you. They aren't being cold. Their brain is changing, and they need you to meet them where they are. Irritability, anxiety, and mood swings. When the mind fights back. Not all seniors become quiet. Some become more irritable, anxious, or even aggressive. Watch for these changes because as cognitive function declines, the ability to regulate emotions weakens. Neurological explanation. The prefrontal cortex, which controls rational thinking and emotional regulation, weakens, making small frustrations feel overwhelming. The fight-or-flight response, controlled by the amygdala, becomes overactive, causing sudden anxiety or anger. Cognitive fatigue makes it harder to process emotions, leading to mood swings. Example: you ask your loved one what they'd like for dinner, and instead of responding, they snap at you, something completely out of character. This isn't them being difficult, their brain is struggling to keep up, and frustration comes out as irritation. A 2018 study from the University of California found that 60% of individuals with late-stage cognitive decline experience personality changes, ranging from increased frustration to complete emotional detachment. Real story. George was always a quiet, loving father, but as his cognitive function declined, he started snapping at his wife over small things. He accused her of moving his belongings, even when nothing had been touched. One day he lashed out over a TV remote, then broke down in tears, unable to explain why he was so upset. His wife later learned that his brain was misinterpreting reality, making him feel like he was constantly losing control. This is why patience is more important than correction. Instead of saying, "Why are you getting so upset?" try, "It's okay, I'm here for you. You're safe. Everything is all right." Even if their brain can't always recognize faces, it can recognize love and reassurance. How to support a loved one through cognitive decline. If your loved one is experiencing confusion, emotional withdrawal, or personality changes, here's what you can do. Create a calm environment. Reduce noise, bright lights, and overwhelming stimuli. Use simple, clear communication. Don't overload them with questions. Speak gently and with patience. Engage them in familiar routines. Play soft music they love, give them a favorite blanket, or simply hold their hand. Avoid correcting them. If they think it's 1995, let them. Don't force reality. Meet them where they feel safe. Understand that emotional responses may change. Love doesn't always look the way it used to, but it's still there. The hard truth and why it matters. Many families struggle with this stage. Some feel guilty for not doing enough. Others try to bring their loved one back by pushing them to engage. But the reality is, cognitive decline isn't something you can reverse. What you can do is make every moment count. Hard question. Should we focus on keeping them engaged, or should we prioritize comfort and peace? There's no right answer, but one thing is clear. Your presence matters, even if they can't always show it. Have you noticed a loved one withdrawing or showing signs of cognitive decline? What was the first moment you realized something had changed? Let's share and support each other in the comments. When the body stops fighting. The silent crisis of a weakening immune system. Imagine this. Your father, a man who never used to get sick, suddenly seems to catch every cold, every cough, every infection that goes around. A simple scratch on his arm takes weeks to heal. He starts needing round after round of antibiotics for what used to be minor issues. At first, you think it's just bad luck, a rough season. But then it keeps happening, and no matter what you do, his body just doesn't bounce back the way it used to. This is one of the clearest signs that the body is shutting down, and yet most families miss it. Why the immune system fails. The body's last surrender. The immune system is like an army, constantly fighting off invaders. But as someone nears the end of life, that army loses its strength. White blood cell production slows, circulation weakens, and the body can no longer defend itself the way it once did. The Science A 2021 study in the Journal of Immunology found that people over 80 produce 75% fewer new white blood cells than they did in their 40s, making them more vulnerable to infections. As the heart weakens, blood flow decreases, meaning cuts, bruises, and wounds don't get the oxygen and nutrients they need to heal. In the final months, the body stops prioritizing repair and begins a slow, natural shutdown. But the scariest part. Infections in seniors don't always look like infections. Many families expect high fevers or visible symptoms, but in reality the first signs are often subtle and easy to miss. Real stories. The hidden clues families wish they had seen Margaret's vanishing appetite. Margaret, 82, had always been a strong woman, but her daughter Susan noticed something strange. Her mother started eating less and less. She wasn't sick, wasn't complaining of pain, just different. A week later she became confused, forgetting what day it was. Susan assumed it was just part of aging. But when Margaret finally went to the doctor, they discovered a severe urinary tract infection, UTI, one that had gone unnoticed for weeks. John's never-healing wound. John, a retired Navy veteran, cut his hand one afternoon while fixing a chair. It was a small cut, nothing serious, but weeks later it was still red and swollen. His family assumed it was just taking longer to heal. Then one morning, he woke up with a raging fever and confusion. By the time they got him to the hospital, the infection had spread to his bloodstream. David's bad flu that wasn't. David, 90, came down with what his family thought was a simple cold. He was tired, weak, and didn't want to eat much. But there was no cough, no fever, just exhaustion. 2 weeks later, his doctor diagnosed him with pneumonia. His body had stopped reacting the way it used to. Number 4. Frequent infections. These stories have one thing in common. The warning signs were there, but they didn't look like what we expect. Why some infections never go away. The antibiotic trap. Have you ever noticed that seniors sometimes need stronger and stronger antibiotics just to recover from simple infections? That's because their immune system isn't helping the medicine anymore. It's a losing battle. The hidden danger pneumonia, UTIs, and skin infections are the most common infections that signal a body in decline. A study in the American Journal of Medicine found that 30% of hospitalized seniors die from infections that once would have been treatable. The more antibiotics they take, the less effective they become. At a certain point, families have to ask, are we prolonging life, or just prolonging suffering? How to recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Because infections in the elderly often look different, here's what to watch for: sudden confusion or forgetfulness instead of a fever, loss of appetite or dehydration instead of pain, extreme fatigue or withdrawal instead of visible symptoms, wounds that take too long to heal. If your loved one is experiencing any of these signs, don't assume it's just old age. It could be their body trying to tell you something. The hardest question: when do we stop fighting? For many families, there comes a moment when they have to make a choice. Do we keep treating every infection, every illness, with more medication, more hospital visits? Or do we accept that the body is transitioning and focus on comfort instead? This is one of the hardest decisions you will ever face, but knowing what's happening, understanding the truth, can help you make the right choice for your loved one. Have you ever experienced a loved one going through repeated infections? What was the first sign you noticed? Let's start a conversation in the comments. The hardest choice: when to let go and focus on comfort. For many families, there comes a point when medical intervention is no longer about saving a life, but about delaying the inevitable. The hardest part isn't deciding whether to push for another round of antibiotics, another hospital stay, or another treatment. It's realizing that more medicine won't change what's happening. At some point, the focus shifts from curing to comforting. You're not alone if you're struggling with this decision. Every family reaches this crossroads, wondering if they should keep fighting or if it's time to shift toward peace. But here's something most doctors won't tell you. Sometimes, stopping aggressive treatment can actually give your loved one a more peaceful, dignified ending. Real stories. When families had to make the toughest call: Lisa's endless hospital visits. Lisa's 87-year-old father, Bill, had been fighting infections for months. Every time he got better, another illness came right back. The hospital became a second home with round after round of antibiotics. Then one day, a doctor quietly asked her, "Is this what he would want?" That question hit hard. Lisa realized she was fighting to keep him alive, but not giving him the peaceful, pain-free life he deserved. Mark's decision to choose comfort over treatment. Mark's mother, Alice, had always been strong, but after her third hospital stay in 6 months, she stopped responding to treatments. Her doctor gently explained that her body was simply too weak to keep fighting infections. Mark and his family decided to bring her home, focus on comfort, and let her spend her final days surrounded by love instead of IV lines in sterile hospital rooms. She passed peacefully in her own bed, holding her son's hand. Jasmine's regret, wishing for more time at home. Jasmine's grandmother Ruth had been in and out of the hospital for pneumonia multiple times. The family kept pushing for aggressive treatments, believing they were doing the right thing. But Ruth spent her last few months in a hospital bed instead of at home, where she wanted to be. Jasmine later admitted, "I wish we had stopped sooner and just let her be comfortable, instead of putting her through more suffering." These stories highlight something crucial. At some point, quality of life matters more than quantity. What you can do instead of pushing for more treatment. If your loved one is constantly battling infections, here are 5 expert-backed ways to provide comfort instead of prolonging suffering. Prioritize hydration. Dehydration weakens the body even further. Offer small sips of water, broth, or electrolyte drinks. Keep the skin healthy. Chronic infections weaken skin, making it prone to sores. Use moisturizing lotions, soft sheets, and repositioning techniques to prevent pressure ulcers. Manage pain naturally. Instead of relying solely on medication, try warm compresses, gentle massages, or calming essential oils to reduce discomfort. Create a peaceful environment. Hospitals are cold, noisy, and stressful. If possible, consider hospice care at home, where your loved one can be surrounded by warmth, family, and familiarity. Respect their wishes. The most important question to ask is, what would they want? If they could choose between another hospital stay or a quiet, peaceful transition at home, what would bring them the most dignity? Shifting the focus from more time to better time. Many people feel guilty choosing comfort care over aggressive treatment. But here's the truth. Choosing comfort is not giving up. It's making sure the time they have left is filled with love, peace, and dignity. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to stop aggressive treatments for a loved one? How did you handle it? Let's share and support each other in the comments. Now let's move forward to the next major sign. Number 5. Change in breathing and circulation. The changes in breathing and circulation that signal the final transition. When every breath tells a story, how to recognize the final changes in breathing and circulation. There's something haunting about watching a loved one's breathing change. It's one of the clearest signs that the body is preparing for its final stage. But for many families, these changes are terrifying because they don't know what to expect or how to help. The truth is, breathing at the end of life doesn't look like what most people imagine. The 3 major breathing changes before death. Shallow or slowed breathing. Your loved one might start breathing more slowly, with long pauses between breaths. It might seem like they stop for a moment before taking a sudden, deeper breath. Irregular breathing patterns. Some people experience Cheney-Stokes respiration, a rhythmic pattern of deep, rapid breaths followed by long pauses. This can be unsettling, but it's a natural process. Mouth breathing or gurgling sounds. As the body loses its ability to clear fluids, you may notice a soft gurgling or rattling sound in the throat. This doesn't necessarily mean they are in distress. It's simply the body's natural response as swallowing reflexes weaken. Why this happens? The brain is sending fewer signals to the muscles that control breathing, causing inconsistent rhythms. Meanwhile, circulation weakens, reducing oxygen levels and leading to cold extremities and a bluish skin tone. Real stories, families who witnessed these changes. Eleanor's last breath. Eleanor's family noticed that her hands and feet were getting colder, and she seemed to breathe in a slow, irregular rhythm. They panicked, thinking she was struggling, but her hospice nurse reassured them, she's not in pain, her body is simply slowing down. Knowing this gave the family peace, allowing them to hold her hand and whisper comforting words in her final moments. Daniel's peaceful transition. Daniel's daughter, Rebecca, remembered her father's final hours. His breathing became shallow and his lips turned slightly blue. At first, she was scared, but when she held his hand and spoke softly, his face relaxed. "That's when I knew he wasn't suffering," she said. "He was letting go." Chris's mother's unexpected clarity. Chris's mother had been slipping in and out of consciousness, breathing irregularly. But just before she passed, she suddenly took a deep, steady breath and opened her eyes. She looked at Chris and whispered, "I love you," then quietly drifted away. These moments are profound. While they are difficult to witness, understanding what's happening can help you be present instead of afraid. How to make their final moments peaceful. Into their room. Quiet and calm, soft lighting, gentle voices, and familiar scents can help ease their transition. Offer reassurance. Even if they are unconscious, they can still hear you. Speak gently, hold their hand, and remind them they are loved. Avoid panic. Changes in breathing can be unsettling, but understanding them can help you provide comfort instead of fear. Focus on presence, not fixing. There's nothing to fix at this stage. Your presence is the most powerful gift you can give. Final thoughts. The gift of a peaceful goodbye. Watching a loved one take their final breaths is one of the hardest things you will ever face. But it doesn't have to be terrifying. When you understand what's happening, you can focus on being present, offering love, and ensuring their final moments are filled with peace, not fear. When every breath becomes a struggle, recognizing the final signs of decline. Watching a loved one struggle to breathe is one of the most distressing experiences a family can face. What once seemed effortless, getting up, talking, or even just sitting quietly, now leaves them gasping for air. It's natural to panic. The first instinct is to call a doctor to find something, anything, that will make it better. But what if there isn't a fix? What if this isn't an illness, but the body's way of slowing down? Understanding these changes won't make them easier, but it can help you shift from panic to peace, from fear to comfort, from trying to fix what's happening to making sure your loved one's final days are filled with dignity, not distress. Why breathing becomes difficult. The science of decline. Breathing is controlled by the brainstem, but as the body shuts down, the brain signals weaken and breathing patterns change. What research tells us, the lungs lose elasticity with age, making it harder to take deep breaths. As the heart weakens, circulation slows, meaning less oxygen is delivered to the muscles, causing shortness of breath with minimal movement. Fluid buildup in the lungs, called pulmonary congestion, happens as circulation weakens, causing a persistent cough and gurgling sounds. A study published in the Journal of Palliative Medicine found that over 50% of elderly individuals in their final months experience chronic breathlessness, even without lung disease. These changes aren't necessarily painful, but they can be uncomfortable. That's why knowing how to respond can make all the difference. Real stories. When families face the final breath, Evelyn's last night at home. Evelyn, 89, had always been active, but in her final months, even sitting up in bed left her breathless. Her family noticed her sleeping upright in a recliner as lying flat made breathing harder. One night, her daughter panicked when Evelyn's breath became slow and irregular, but their hospice nurse reassured them, "This is normal, just keep her comfortable." They dimmed the lights, held her hand, and simply stayed with her. By morning she was gone, but peacefully, in her home, surrounded by loved ones. Tom's final words. Tom, a retired teacher, had been struggling with breathlessness for weeks. Each sentence left him winded. His grandson Michael told him, "You don't have to talk, Grandpa, just rest." But Tom shook his head and whispered, "This is my last story. Let me finish." His family let him take his time, breathing in between words. An hour later, he fell asleep and never woke up. Giving him space to speak at his own pace allowed him to share a final, cherished moment. David's peaceful transition. David's wife, Margaret, woke up one morning and noticed something different. He wasn't struggling anymore. His breathing was slow, steady, but quieter. She sat by his bed, holding his hand. No more gasping, no more effort, just a gentle slowing. When the nurse arrived, she told Margaret, "He's letting go." Minutes later he did. Not in pain, not in distress, just a quiet, peaceful passing. How to help. Practical ways to ease breathing in the final stage. Adjust their position. If they struggle to breathe lying down, prop them up with pillows or let them rest in a recliner. Gravity helps keep fluid from pooling in the lungs. Keep the air cool and humidified. A cool room with a humidifier can make breathing easier. Dry air makes congestion worse, and heat increases breathlessness. Offer small sips of water or ice chips. Dehydration thickens mucus, making breathing more difficult. But avoid forcing large amounts. They may not be able to swallow properly. Use gentle reassurance, not panic. If they pause between breaths, resist the urge to shake them awake. Instead, hold their hand, speak softly, and let them know you're there. Avoid overstimulation. Bright lights, loud noises, or excessive talking can be overwhelming. Keep the space peaceful. Know that gurgling sounds are not suffering. The death rattle, a gurgling sound in the throat, isn't painful. It's just excess fluid that they can no longer clear. Instead of suctioning, simply turn their head to the side to help with drainage. Oxygen therapy can help, but it's not always necessary. Many families assume giving oxygen will help, but in late-stage decline, it often doesn't make a difference. Speak with a doctor about whether it's truly needed. The final moments. What to expect and how to respond in the last hours. Breathing will slow even more. Here are signs to watch for. Long pauses between breaths, sometimes up to 30 seconds. Irregular breathing patterns. Cheney-Stokes respiration. Cold hands, feet, or bluish lips due to reduced circulation. These are not signs of distress. They are natural processes. What you can do, stay close. Your presence is the most comforting thing. Speak softly. Even if they can't respond, they can hear you. Let go of fear. This is their transition, and your calmness will help them feel safe. Final thoughts. The gift of presence in their last breath. In their final moments, what they need most isn't a doctor, a machine, or a cure. They need you. They need to feel safe, loved, and at peace. They may not be able to say it, but your presence, your voice, your hand in theirs tells them everything they need to know. You are not alone. You are loved. You can let go when you're ready. One day, we will all face this moment, whether as the person saying goodbye or as the one holding a loved one's hand. whispering words of comfort as they take their final breaths. It's easy to focus on what we're losing, the strength that fades, the memories that slip away, the conversations that grow quieter. But what if, instead of seeing this as an end, we saw it as a chance? A chance to love more deeply, to be more present, to say the things we too often leave unsaid. Because in the end, it's not about how long we have, it's about how well we use the time that remains. If you're noticing these signs in someone you love, don't wait. Hold their hand. Tell them what they mean to you. Share the stories that make you smile. Make them feel safe, cherished, and at peace. Because long after they're gone, you won't remember the fight to keep them alive. You'll remember the moments you made count. What is one lesson you've learned about life and love from an elderly family member? Share in the comments. Your story might help someone else who is walking this path. If this video has helped you understand the final journey of a loved one, please take a moment to like and share it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We share meaningful insights to help you stay strong, healthy, and connected with those you love. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.